Hello guys, Dan here from the Games Hub, and today I'm bringing you a review of Lords of the Fallen. So the game is developed by Deck 13 Interactive and CI Games, and is published by Bandai Namco Games in North America and Square Enix in Europe. The game is a hack and slash action RPG where the player takes on the role of a bloke named Harkin. And he is a convicted criminal whose markings and runes all over his face show the world of his sins. But luckily for him, Caslo, an old guy, lets him out of prison because he dreamt up that Harkin would help defeat the Rogar and the defeated gods that have entered the human realm. So in a way, it's sort of like a redemption story for the character that we play. Yeah, because he's a bad guy, but he's helping his own realm. Although it doesn't really show any emotion that he's doing it for forgiveness. It's more of like, he's doing it because he's been told to do it. And if it's getting darker whilst I'm doing this, it's because the sun is setting and I usually use natural light in here, but looks like I've got this lamp here which sort of highlights my face at least. Anyway, sadly you can't actually customise your character, so you're stuck with him and all his boldness glory. I'm playing the game on the PC and it's also out on the Xbox One and PS4, I think that's it, just those three. And the game does look absolutely stunning. However, because my PC seems to be outdated now, even though I thought it wasn't, I have to play it on medium settings to record, due to frame rate dropping, but you know, that's probably just my computer's fault and not the game's fault. But on top settings on the PC and next gen, the game does look absolutely phenomenal. Now, I'm new to these sort of games, and by these games I mean like, it's being compared to Dark Souls quite a lot, which I'm sure it's taking inspiration from, and I've never played Dark Souls or Demon Souls. So coming to a game that doesn't have a difficulty setting and is generally quite hard was a new experience, to say the least. And I wasn't quite expecting it to be so difficult, and I had no idea. I mean, I finally grasped that the weapons you use and the armour you have and the timing of what you do actually makes a difference. You can't just like go in for it and just smash the button to try and kill the enemy. You actually have to be a lot more skillful about it, which I learnt the hard way by dying several times throughout the beginning, and I'm still dying at the moment anyway, so a bit of a learning curve. And it also means I can't make comparisons to Dark Souls because obviously I haven't played the game. So in the game you have a health bar, a stamina bar and a magic bar. For me the most important would be the stamina because it enables you to run, block and attack with force. Sure, you can still attack without having stamina, but it literally does nothing. Attack that would usually do 40 damage now does 1 or 3 or something without your stamina. So you sort of have to take a breather to get your stamina back and obviously dodge any incoming attacks, which obviously dodging also uses stamina as well. But probably one of the key points that I didn't learn until very recently whilst playing was that you have to time your attacks pretty much perfectly. Like, as you swing once, just as you stop swinging, if you click it again to swing again, you use half as much stamina as you usually would if you didn't time it. So that means you can fit twice as many hits in and keep on at it until you run out of stamina. But at the beginning I was sort of mashing the button because nobody told me. I mean, I suppose I don't need to be told, I sort of worked it out in the end. So on to weapons, you've got things like axes, great axes, short swords, great swords, and usually the lighter weapons you can dual wield, like you've got these like knuckle claws, like Wolverine style sort of things. And you can use them a lot quicker than you can obviously with a heavier weapon. Heavy weapons usually take a fair few seconds to actually swing. So if you see an enemy coming towards you, you have to sort of time it before they get to you. Where if you've got a light weapon, you can see the enemy coming towards you and sort of dodge out the way, go around it, and then slash 2 or 3 times and then jump back. So it really does make a difference whether you're actually going light or heavy. With the current weapon that I'm using, I was using a short sword which I could dual wield, or use with a shield obviously, or the magic gun that I'll talk about in a minute, but I've currently gone to a staff because I've just got enough levels, which I'll go on to as well in a second. Oh, actually, the magic gun was actually the next point anyway that I've written down. So basically, quite early on in the game, you pick up this magic gun that goes on your left arm, and it replaces you having a shield or a second, so you can dual wield weapon. You sort of just pick it up, and nothing's really explained to you. Still, I haven't had anything. I'm not that far into the story, but I've still not had anything explained to me. I mean, Caslo, the old guy, hasn't asked what it is. He's sort of just ignored it. I thought you would learn something about it, what it is, but you sort of just pick it up and use it. The weapon itself has 3 different fire modes. It's got a precision one that shoots a bullet quite far. It has a blast one, which I think is like a shotgun, where obviously they have to be quite close range and you shoot it and it doesn't really travel far at all. Or you've got the one that is explosive one, which is like an energy grenade thing that it throws. And it all uses the magic bar at the bottom of the screen, which recharges really slowly. So you can't sort of use this as a weapon to kill things from afar all the time. I mean, you might be able to kill one sort of weak unit from afar, but obviously when you shoot something, it attracts their attention and they move towards you. So usually for me, if there's a group of enemies about, I would shoot one of them, it would attract them towards me, I would then fight him by himself, then attract the next one, instead of sort of running in there. So it does have its perks. For the main magic, you have 3 selections to choose from at the beginning of the game. One is Brawling, which is the more aggressive, I think, warrior typed one. Another is Solus, which is what I went for, which is the more, I think, defensive. And then you've got one called Deception, which is for the sort of stealth sort of player. All with about 4 different spells that you can unlock each with your XP. Also at the beginning of the game, you can choose from a warrior, a cleric, or a rogue. The warrior is the heavier unit, and the rogue is the light unit, with the cleric being sort of the middle ground magic unit, which is the guy I chose. Now I thought choosing the middle ground sort of class, which isn't too heavy or too light, was actually a good thing, because I thought, you know, it's going to be sort of well-rounded. But well-rounded really doesn't pay off. You've really got to specialise in them or something, I've found. Although, obviously, in the game you can still put on the heavy armour and the light armour and technically still be like a warrior and still be like rogue. Now, just to touch on the boss battles, I've been up against 3 so far and finally defeated the 3rd one, my word. The 3rd one really called me out. I mean, the first one was okay, I got through him without changing anything on my inventory. Didn't really have anything anyway because it was the beginning of the game. The second one I went for sort of more roguelike, putting on light armour and a light weapon. And in the 3rd one, I found out that I needed to get some more points on agility, I think it was, or was it faith? It was either agility or faith I needed, because weapons in the game you have to be certain levels for to use them at their full potential. I wanted to use a staff. If I use a staff without being that certain level, it would just be ineffective. I would be doing hardly any damage. It just wasn't worth it. Luckily in the game though, if you do look around, there are places to explore. For example, with the second boss, I couldn't kill him, so I turned back and started going through the towers, and there was, you know, and there was all sorts of lure and loot to learn about the story and also get some XP and some more weapons and some more armour, and I spent a good few hours sort of levelling up before returning back to the second boss and attacking him. And then battling him, feeling a lot better about my position. And I'd done the same for the 3rd one as well. Oh, and a thing to note about the bosses, they have notches in their health bar, and when you get down to a 1 notch and then the 2nd and then the 3rd notch, they sort of change their playstyle, and it sort of makes it feel a lot fresher, because you don't sort of have one playstyle and he just keeps at it. When he gets to a certain point, the Lord then suddenly starts firing a different weapon at you, or spawning in some smaller units for you to fend off, which also makes it a lot harder. I mean, the 3rd guy, the Worshipper, every time he spawned in these 2nd units, I died. I couldn't fend him off whilst trying to fend off the little guys as well. So now on to save points. So, save points or checkpoints in the game, they're these sort of red, glowing orange shards that you can't use if enemies are like right next to them. They sort of just fall on the ground and crumble. But when you do use them, you can bank your XP there. You get XP by killing enemies, and if you don't bank the XP and you keep it on you, when you start killing other enemies, you have a multiplier. So the more XP you keep on you, and the more people you kill, the more XP you get from it. However, there is a sense of risk there, because if you die with that XP on you, it will stay on that body, and the ghost that is where the body was will hold the XP. And you need to run back to that position and get the XP and pick it back up. However, obviously when you die, it resets all the enemies and they're all there. So basically, you die, your XP is on the other side of the map, you then have to respawn at that checkpoint, run back through and kill all the enemies that are now there again, to then get back to your ghost and pick up the XP. If you don't pick up straight away and you hang around it, it does regenerate your health, which is very handy. Although I found it probably was just better to pick it up and so you didn't lose it. Because I believe if you don't pick that up and you're hanging around it and then you die again, I think you lose the XP in that body, and then your new body obviously has none in there because you went to pick it up. So I usually just pick the stuff up. When you do bank your XP, you can spend it either on magic or on attributes. The attributes, you've got things like strength, faith, agility, luck, and when I was spending my points, the mistake I made, I was going for a well-rounded character, so I spent 3 on luck, a couple on strength, a couple on faith, a couple on agility, vitality, which is health. But really, when I got to the 3rd boss, I couldn't use any of my decent weapons because I hadn't focused on just one specific sort of attribute. I'd gone broad, which means I was reasonably good at most things, but not really good to use a heavier weapon or a good shield or the high-level staff that I have. So it meant that I had to go back, explore a little bit more, almost die a few times, go back and get the XP, run away, and then level up. So a tip would be, don't go broadly with your points. Pick 2 or 3, maybe 2, and just sort of level them up to the max so you can really use the heavier weapons and higher level weapons in the game. Because I really think that's why I struggled so much on the third guy. I tried several times with the third boss, but as soon as I leveled up and I could use this staff, I think I done it in one go actually with the staff. So it really showed how much of a difference it makes with your attributes and where you spend them and what weapons you use. Oh, and also, apart from everything spawning in when you die, when you leave an area which you haven't been to or have been to, all the enemies are there regardless, unless there's sort of a significant mini-boss, like these venomous spiders that I kept coming across. They respawn back in, so if you leave an area and come back, they spawn back in. And it makes it a lot harder, especially if you go into an area and you go in there and you think, oh bloody hell, this is a lot harder than I thought. So you run back to go to the other area that you just come from, and everything's just respawned back in, and your save point's miles away. So it really makes the game hard. The game also has runes, which you have to go and see this guy, I can't remember his name, but he's very noticeable by look. He unseals the runes, and you can then, whatever the rune is, poison or luck or power or whatever, you can then apply them to your weapons, which obviously gives you better stats or poison or luck or whatever. Although I almost made the mistake of unlocking all my runes when I suddenly remembered that actually some chests that you find and want to loot, they require you to put a rune in. So don't use them all, keep a couple on you, otherwise you'll be really annoyed when you find a chest that needs a rune. Now the general feel of the game is quite linear. I mean, it sort of is linear, but at the same time it's not. I mean, I thought it was linear in my mind, and so I wasn't checking all these doors I was going past, but when I got stuck on like the second boss, I then went to go back on myself, and I spent several hours, probably about 5, maybe not several, 5 hours just sort of killing some enemies, jumping to some ledges to get some runes and some weapons, looting, finding keys and new areas to unlock. I didn't even finish exploring in the end because I ended up going back so I could bank my XP before I died. And obviously as soon as I leave the area I go back again and everyone's there. So I spent several hours and, you know, I was still undiscovered. Okay, so now for my opinion of the story. Of course, I've not completed the game so far, so my opinion could change. But at the moment, the characters that I've met, you know, Caslo and then there's this lady character, they just feel really weak. I mean, the few times I've actually met Caslo after he runs off without helping me, he sort of just says, this needs to be done, only you can do it, you need to do it by yourself. And then you speak to the lady, and she's like, I need to go find this. And you're like, oh, I can help. And she's like, you can do it yourself, sort of thing, and leaves you, and then she disappears and then finds you later on, somehow she's got there, without killing anything or getting killed herself. It just feels like the characters are always just at checkpoints, just to let you know what's sort of going on. At least at the moment. I mean, it could change. And apparently some of the decisions with the characters that you meet, like there was a monk that I met and obviously the lady that I talked to, apparently what you say to them can affect the end of the game. Which to me seems a bit odd because the way you talk to them and that, it doesn't really feel like that they would impact anything. For me, the game isn't really about the story at the moment, it's actually just about the challenge. I mean, I've got a staff that I want to use, which is I think level 20 face, so I need to aim for that, which means hopefully I'll be prepared for the next boss fight. And that's sort of what I'm looking forward to. Battling the next big thing. Also, it hasn't become tedious yet. I mean, the feeling of the actual story, it feels like you could progress quite fast. But you have the option of slowing down and exploring and looting and going finding these other things. Finding lore and learning other things about the story. So really, it's sort of up to you at the pace you go. Well, at least as long as you spend your points on attributes wisely, unlike me. And then going to have to explore and loot, which isn't a bad thing. I just, it was something I feel like I had to go and do to explore to then get more points, to then get a good level and then fight the boss. So as a newbie to this sort of style of game, the tutorials explained a little bit, but for me they didn't quite explain enough. But then again, the game is difficult, and games that are known to be difficult aren't going to spoon-feed you through the tutorials and tell you all the buttons. I now, however, feel like someone who's a bit more capable and that the enemies should fear, although when I actually said that in one of my videos of my playthrough, which you can check out here somewhere, when I said that in one of my videos, I was like, oh yeah, I feel much better now with this stuff. Look, check this out, and then I lost like 3/4 of my health and almost died. Magnificent. Anyway, to sum things up, the pros of the game are, it is graphically stunning, it has skill-based combat, so you can't just mash the button and hope for the best, you've actually got to pay attention to what you're doing. And it has a good amount of exploration to keep you busy between bosses, if you feel like you want to level up your attributes or magic a little bit more before heading on. And it also lets you learn a bit more about the story. However, the cons are the characters feel weak, the decisions you make that are apparently important don't feel important. They don't feel like they make an impact, when apparently when you get to the end of the game, they actually do. And a minor niggle, the cape, armor and weapons sometimes overlap and clip, like sometimes you'll have a shield on your back and the cape will go through the shield, or you'll have like an axe and it will go through your shoulder of your armor or something, and you know, just minor niggle. It's not like I stare at them and like, I'm a kid, and then I get suddenly hit in the face and die. You know, it's not that bad. So, time for the score. I will be giving Lords of the Fallen a 7.5 out of 10. That's it for this review. If you want to check out my playthrough of the game, which will start off very fast, but obviously slow down as it gets extremely hard, click on the link here, or it will be in the description below. Thank you guys for watching this video. Remember to like and subscribe if you enjoy our content, and I will see you in the next video. Brr.